All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Kent C. Dodds, and you are watching Angular Air. And we are joined by guys at Drifty who make the Ionic Framework. Say hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
So we're joined by Adam Bradley. You guys can go ahead and say hello so people know.
This is Adam. I'm Ben.
And we got Max.
Max. I'm Andrew.
And Andrew, Jocelyn, and Perry Govier.
Yep. And Mike. And Mike.
And Mike.
And Mike. There we are. All right. So, just before we get started, I have a couple of quick announcements. So we are going to be taking NG Air a little bit more seriously, and the last episode we had was like a month ago. We are going to change this and go for weekly shows. So everybody cheer! Woo! Weekly shows! Yeah. So our next show for next week is with Jason Debris, and he's made a bunch of open source Angular libraries, and so we're going to chat about developing open source libraries for Angular, and that will be March 24th. So a week from today, same time, every single week, you can expect an episode. And then, as always, we are open to questions. That's the thing that we do at the end of our show is we answer your questions. So go to ng-air.github.io, and you can ask your questions for our guests there. And then, as always, follow us on Twitter and Google+ to stay up to date with the latest of our shows. So, without any further ado, let's just go ahead and get started. Any of you guys can answer any of these questions that I'll ask, but the first question I think that's pertinent to people watching this is, what is the Ionic Framework? Some people may not know.
I guess I'll start. Yeah, so the Ionic Framework is basically a web-based mobile development framework, and the whole idea is that we're just trying to give web developers like a kind of feature parity, like equal footing to the native SDKs to build high-quality like mobile apps that run in the App Store. So basically, that's the goal of it, and we use AngularJS to create like simple components that just have all this like really powerful functionality underneath that you don't really have to think too much about. So that's kind of the goal of it and how we built it.
Cool. So what made you guys, or where did Ionic Framework come from? Like, are you guys just a bunch of really nice open source all day long guys, or where did Ionic come from?
Well, we are a bunch of really nice guys. But Ionic,
Let's just get that out.
Let's just clear the air and just like the elephant in the room. Yes, we're nice guys.
Modest.
Yeah, quite modest. So Ionic came out of, I guess I'll like jump back a bit. So our company, the company that builds Ionic, is called Drifty, and prior to Ionic, we had built some products called Codica and Jetstrap, which are visual interface builders for it was the jQuery mobile framework and Twitter Bootstrap. And Codica was like our prime time #1 product that kind of catapulted us off of the ground and allowed us to leave our jobs. And like I said, jQuery mobile is what powered that like product. And I think what we saw and we heard from our customers was a lot of people were trying to build hybrid apps. And this is back in like 2011, 2012. And that was something that surprised us. We thought a lot of people were going to be just building pure like web apps using jQuery mobile, but they were actually trying to put their apps in the app stores. And they were coming to us saying, hey, we're really frustrated. There's a lot of things that we don't know how to do. You know, can you guys help us like make really awesome hybrid apps? And we were like, well, we can. Maybe there's something we can like do to, you know, make the experience even better for you. Not dodging jQuery mobile. They have a great philosophy, but we felt maybe we could build something that also helped our customers build really, really great hybrid app experiences. And I think that's when we first started thinking about, well, maybe we should build a framework that does that.
Yeah, and like around the same time, Angular was getting really popular. I think this was like mid-2013. And so I was playing around with it a little bit, and like Adam had messed around with it, and the directives kind of stood out to us. Like, wow, we could take this like little directive tag and build like a complicated like tabs layout or something. And it just kind of blew our mind. And like a little known secret is we kind of like picked up Angular pretty soon before we started building Ionic. And once we dove in, we were like, yeah, this is the future. And it kind of just like went from there. We just started looking at what native had and tried to like bring those concepts to like a web framework.
I also think it's like was at the same time of iPhone 5 being released. I remember Max got the iPhone 5 first, and we started playing around with the side menu, swipe gestures, and we're just like, wow, this is actually native-like. That's when we kind of had these epiphanies of like, this isn't BlackBerry 4.7 anymore. This is actually a high-performing mobile app. So we felt like it was great timing. There really wasn't a SDK or a framework pulling these things off that we wanted to see that our customers were asking us for, and we're seeing that the phones can now pull them off. So.
Yeah, and I think like with the side menu was our first demo, and we just kind of came to the conclusion that like if you did things in a very like particular way and focus on like animations that were fast using transforms and not like thrashing the DOM, you could get a lot more performance. So it kind of felt like to us like the web development like ecosystem hadn't caught on to some of those concepts yet, and we wanted to like focus on those concepts and put it in like a mobile framework to finally make it fast enough. So
cool. I know that performance is one question you guys probably get all the time, and so yeah, it sounds like that's something that you think about a lot.
Yeah.
A lot is an understatement.
It's a huge reason if something takes a long time, it's probably because we're tweaking the performance again and again and again and iterating again and again until it's just a little bit better every time. Finally, up to our standard.
And across an array of devices too. What you went up with a couple of surprises where something that might be really performant on like an older phone suddenly in some weird way is awful on a new fast phone. So
Yeah, and that's the huge like pitfall of mobile development is that you're largely building it in Chrome or Firefox, and it looks really like, wow, that was really smooth, really fast. Like let's check it out on my phone now, and that's when like, oh, it's huge flickers, everything's going slow.
Can't use a box shadow.
Yeah, can't use box shadow in certain areas. So we've kind of developed from ground one, starting within the mobile browser, not trying to make a desktop app and squeezing it into a little phone, but starting at the phone first and making sure performance there first.
Yeah, and I think like some of it too is just the history of Android specifically. Like, I mean, it's no secret that Android web performance is historically was just not there, and so it's always been something that we're doing a lot to make it much faster, but was a difficult period. Like trying to get it fast enough, we made a ton of optimizations. We're like, hey, we shouldn't be using this, little border or box shadow here, it's just killing performance, and like we didn't realize it for a while because some of those things are just like, oh, I'll just throw in a box shadow, it looks nice, but you have to be really particular about it. So we've I think really leveled up like how detailed we are, and there's a bunch of changes in the works coming to make Android specifically a lot faster.
Oh, guys, that's exciting. That's cool. Sorry, did one of you have something you wanted to say?
Yeah, I was also just kind of pointing out that crosswalk, being able to bring modern Chromium builds into older Android devices, is a huge step forward.
Humongous. It's gotta make it so you can have an Android 4. Basically, Android 4.x, it was really hard to make it fast just because of the browser. There's really no way to do really complicated things easily. But now we can have the modern Chrome in there. It's a huge difference.
Huh, I hadn't heard about that. So is that like an app that people have to download, or rather, is it like it's bundled with the app? If I were to build it and I ship it to an older phone, would that be bundled with my app?
Yes, we bundled with modern Chromium running around, basically.
Okay, cool. Nice. So you guys obviously do a lot of work. How on earth do you go home to your family and kids at night and say, here's the money? Like, how do you take care of yourselves?
Well, that's where the wonderful investors come in. I love it. But we are like, we raise some money because we have this kind of big vision that we're going after, and the goal is, we want to just build this amazing like open source project that everyone can use. It's always going to be free. It's basically we just want it to be the best way to build mobile apps if you're a web developer. So we ended up raising some money just to kind of give us more resources to do that, because it's a big problem and we want time to like figure it out. And soon we're going to be releasing services that kind of augment the experience. Like I look at like hybrid development, and we want to have the framework, but then also all these services that like you naturally need, like push notifications, analytics, like marketing tools, and having like an ecosystem that actually focuses on hybrid developers. And then we'll kind of start to charge for that. So we will be releasing a few things soon here, but yeah, the framework itself is always going to be free. Like, and it's kind of the most important part of the whole system. So it's not just like a nice like add-on to it. It's like the core of it. So
That's great. So I will always be able to build my apps for free. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
So we're saying
Yes.
Yes.
Good. That's an awesome contribution to the Angular community and to your Ionic community as well. And I'm sure that many Ionic developers are looking forward to the services like push notifications and other things that you're going to provide, because I'm sure those will be well, I'm sure they already are highly needed. So looking forward to your future work there.
yeah, just to add to that, like I think the thing that surprised us is like hybrid developers they want to use web on mobile. Like no one really cared about them for a while. I think it was just like kind of just like taboo to build hybrid apps, and because of that, like even something like push notifications, like there's nothing really out there that's focused on that developer. Analytics, like they're all kind of focused on native developers, like iOS. If you're writing Objective-C, so we kind of want to be the support network for web developers building mobile apps. That's like really important to us.
And there's some things that we can do that they can't. Like with
Yeah.
the live updates.
Yeah, and being on a web platform, you can do like submit live updates to your app without resubmitting it. Like it's a dynamic platform. It actually gives you kind of a leg up. And,
We have power over the whole stack. We have power over the native stack, the UI stack. We have power over both the native phone and the web, which gives us more power than just having power over the native phone.
Yeah, I always love to point out that really it's just a bunch of static files. I mean, it's not that complicated. It's some CSS and JavaScript. So being able to do some cool stuff with that power makes it pretty cool.
Cool. So what about your full, or actually no, I did have another question. So with these other services that you're planning on releasing, would a regular old like Cordova developer or any mobile developer, would they be able to leverage these, or are these going to be like pretty coupled to Ionic?
I think they definitely will be, but like I think more it's the Angular focus. Like A/B testing is going to be really fun because it's going to use Angular in ways that like I don't think people have really seen before, and like so that's kind of you could use it without using Angular, but they definitely aren't going to require Ionic specifically. Maybe here and there they might, but yeah, anyone can use them.
Cool, awesome. So what's the philosophy, the core driving philosophy on how Ionic works? Like, if let's say that I'm a new Ionic developer, what are some of the like very important things that I need to learn so that I can be effective?
So the question is, you're new to Ionic and you want to build an app. Basically.
what do you need to know?
What you need to know? Well, that's,
Actually, really quick, this is very applicable because my father-in-law just told me that he wants to build a mobile app just for the fun of it. Like he's coded like years and years ago, but not. He's like in education. So I was like, well, check out Ionic. Like it's pretty easy. Just throw a couple HTML tags on there. You got your tabs and whatever.
Yeah.
But what would you tell to somebody like him, aside from learn how to program, learn JavaScript, but what about Ionic specifically?
well, what I love hearing about the community is like how often we hear like, oh, I learned Angular through Ionic and I've got my mobile app. It's already been published within 1 week. So I'm kind of proud of the fact that all the effort we put in to make things simple and easy to learn, because it can get very complicated very fast, right? If you look at the divs and the JavaScript and the CSS behind a side menu, it's extremely complicated, and also to make it perform on every platform. But if you look at what you have to write, it's Ion side menu, and then you put your content inside of it. And then our directives and services take care of how it all works. So I think it's really easy to get into Ionic and understand what it's doing. It's like, oh, I want a side menu here, so let's put a couple divs, put a couple elements right here, and all of a sudden it takes care of the magic for you. And that kind of follows the same pattern of like native SDKs of iOS and Android. I mean, there's a lot of under the hood stuff going on of how a side menu works, and that's all part of the SDK. So that's also what we're bringing to the web is taking care of those challenging side of things. So really, I mean, to answer your question, if you go to our Getting Started page, just go through those handful of steps. And I also love watching people when they first build their first app and they see the simulator. They're like, so that's a real app? It's like, yeah, that's an app now. If you could sell this in the Play Store or App Store.
I mean, just remember, it's just a website that talks to your phone at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Which is why it's so simple.
And I think like branching off that with like our core driving philosophy, I think we all like are super passionate about and geek out over taking seemingly complicated concepts and distilling them down into really simple, like accessible pathways to building like an app in this case. And that's something that like drives almost every decision we make. Is this easy? Does this make sense? Is this like
customizable too? That's also
huge. Can you customize this easily? Like if the experience is poor, then we've done a bad job. And if we feel like it would be difficult for us to use, then it's not ready for prompt time. And like Andrew said, like we just like slave over performance, but we also like spend a lot of time making whatever it is that we put out easy to use and enjoyable to use. And I think the reason that we're like that is because we want the people who use Ionic and who use our products to just be awesome with it, to be successful when they use it. If we make it hard to use, we haven't done our job, and we probably won't put anything out. Hopefully, that's really hard to use, because.
Or if we do, we'll make it easy to use very quickly.
Yeah, we'll iterate.
I mean, collection repeat is a perfect example.
Yeah.
It was a really complicated idea and concept that Andrew worked really hard on, and distilled a lot of those ideas. A lot of it came from native into this, what we call collection repeat, and over time we've iterated on it and made it simpler and faster and simpler. And you just talked about that recently in the blog post.
Yeah. Well, like with your father, some of our best success, or some of my favorite success stories, are somebody who's been in a completely different industry, or they're not really programming, and they just have some basic like understanding, and that those people can put together a minimum viable product is cool. But then you can take that and you're not watered down. Like you can make it a very complicated and sophisticated app too. But just that extremely low barrier to entry is great.
And people have said like, well, I don't know Angular, so I don't really know how to use Ionic. And it's usually like, well, you don't need to know Angular, because like all of our starter templates explain exactly what's going on. Like there's comments throughout everything of like, okay, this controller is talking to this, and so that's how like again like I'm proud of the fact that people say that they learned Angular through Ionic, because we're helping them actually build a practical thing, not just like, oh, here's a starter or here's a to-do app that really doesn't teach you anything. You have a purpose of an app you want to build, and now you can learn it and build an actual app.
And we probably need to move on to other questions, but one last comment I want to make on that, because we really do think about a lot of this stuff is, for people getting started, we care about there being a great community and support network for people. And it's one of the reasons why, if you're getting started with Ionic and you're new to it and you go to our forum, you're going to see us around there. You're going to see Mike on there helping you out or pushing you in the right direction and making sure that you are successful with Ionic. And there's also just a fantastic community there already as it is that will help you if you need help. And that's something that I think we're all really, really proud of. And thank you for.
Huge thanks to Mike, too. I mean, he's really helped grow that community.
Yeah, I spend like most of my days just like on there going through questions and responding back to people. So it's really great to see like some people like you guys were saying, some people say, hey, I don't know how to do this in Angular, or I didn't even know Angular to begin with, but I'm going to be learning it as I'm doing my Ionic development. So
right.
I think that's one thing that I really admire about what I've seen with you guys is like you have a very strong community, and like I just think that's awesome that you can even say like Ionic Community. so like kudos to you guys for being able to build a community around your open source project. That's way awesome. And then I think a lot of that does have to do with the efforts that you put into making the community friendly and helpful, and being helpful to newcomers, and also like obviously to be able to build a community, it's very important for your project to be simple, and that's what I've seen. Also, like, I'm just gonna keep throwing compliments at you guys, but like your documentation and like it's super good. I'm way impressed. You have examples for everything. I feel like it's very simple to grok. Like, how do I use this thing? And it's only going to get better because if I understand it right, Egghead is working on a whole series of lessons for Ionic as well. So everybody look forward to that.
Yes.
Yeah, it's going to be way cool. So and then also, like, I just got to throw this out there, Ben. I am always like really surprised, or not surprised, but like impressed by your design capabilities. I think Ionic, like the website and like everything you put out, is just awesome. So a high five for building or for designing pretty slick looking stuff.
Ben's our secret weapon, I guess, in the open source community. You know, a lot of people can write code, but not very many people make it look pretty. So,
well, thank
you,
you,
Ben.
Yeah, high five. Awesome. So what are you guys working on right now? That, like, spoiler alert, but what do you want to, or what are you working on that you're excited about to give to the Ionic community?
Well, we flew in Andrew this week, and we've been talking almost all day, every day, about Angular 2 and Ionic 2. So
it's a thing.
Yeah,
it's definitely a thing. Yeah, it's definitely going to happen.
We've been going through everything that we did. You know, all the decisions we made, design decisions, you know, coding decisions, and we're reevaluating it. You know, documentation, everything. So we are like, I'm super excited about it. I want to I want to start using this like today.
Oh yeah, like all the work we're putting in right now. I think this year that we've had of experience of realizing as we go through the framework of like, well, we should have done it this way, should have done it this way. Then iteration 2 of kind of a rework is going to be pretty awesome. I'm like, yeah, I'm really forward to it.
See, Ionic 1 is great, but it's crazy because there really are problems with it. There really are problems that we can fix. There's so many ways that we can improve it and make it better. And Ionic 2 is just a chance to learn all the lessons where we didn't see something or we didn't support something.
Faster too. Angular 2 is going to help a lot.
Yeah. Absolutely thrilled about Angular 2.
Yeah, I'm super stoked about the performance gains in Angular 2 as well. So because you guys are an abstraction on top of Angular in many ways, I'm expecting that well, I don't know, maybe this is more of a question, but and maybe an unanswerable question at this point, but what do you expect the migration strategy to be for Ionic apps?
You did a talk on this.
Well, a lot of our components will have the same name, and some won't. We are still thinking about it. That's my answer.
I think
we're still just starting to plan out how Ionic 2 will work.
Like we want it to be a smooth upgrade, and I think we will either have like a way to like programmatically do it, or just documentation that explains it, and try to keep as much the same as possible. I mean, that's a nice thing about like, you know, it's like keeping things under directives because you can just change the underlying implementation. But I think fundamentally it's going to be a change, and I think it's good that I think mobile is a really good place to make those changes because there's a lot of like new development going on. So that's why I think like when Angular 2 was announced, the cost of moving to Angular 2 I think is actually lower than the cost of like moving to Rails if you were using like, you know, Python on the server, because generally you're just like building new things. You don't need to change your old stuff, and the front end just makes it really easy to add like new technology. So mobile's going to be really good for that. People are building new apps all the time, and we'll just work really hard to get people upgraded, and they'll want to upgrade because it's going to be so much better.
No.
That's great. Good luck, guys, on your discussions on trying to make that Ionic 2 that much better. That's going to be sweet.
But I also do want to say that we're probably going to, or we are going to continue to support, version 1, as long as Angular 1 is supported. So I don't want everyone to think that we're just abandoning it and throwing it away. We still have, full-time community support on that, so don't be afraid of that.
Great. Yeah, that's good to hear too. Thanks for mentioning that.
Supporting the community.
I think we missed that. What did you say?
We're supporting the community, not community support. We're not going to like.
Yeah, we'll have people.
It's open source. You maintain it.
Yeah, take this, community. Nice. Good. That's great. So, what about? Can you give me any examples of Ionic apps that I might know, or some apps that are out in the App Store that are have impressed you guys in using the Ionic framework?
Swerkit is a real big one.
Yeah, talk about that.
Yeah, so Swerkit is awesome. We actually featured that one in the Ionic show, and basically it's a it's like a personal fitness app. It's like trying to build a personal trainer, turn it into an app that tells you what to do, use your own body weight, and you pick different workout routines through it, and it kind of just goes through the whole workout for you and with you. It's 100% Ionic, built on iOS, Android, Amazon.
Yeah.
And
I think they've been featured in every single store.
Yeah, featured in every single app store.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
It's great, and I think they have. I don't know if we can say how many users, but it's a lot of users.
Yeah, tons of millions of installs. And I think I like them as an example because it just goes to show that clearly hybrid apps are good enough that Apple even will feature them. So.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to think. Another one is Malsey.
Yeah.
Malsey's a great one out of the UK. It's like a shopping app for clothing. It's kind of you swipe through different items of clothing and like the ones that you think you might like, and you can find a way to purchase it.
Song Hop. It's kind of like Tinder for music. Oh, yeah. You choose a genre and you swipe if you like the song or don't like the song.
Yeah.
It's related songs.
It's like Tinder for songs,
Yeah.
but it's connected to your Spotify account. So every song that you like, it builds a little playlist in your Spotify. It's actually pretty cool.
And then one I was most proud of was the Electronic Frontier Foundation built an app with Ionic, which was awesome. They've been I've been a huge fan of them, so that's pretty sweet.
We actually have a lot of apps, a lot of our favorite apps highlighted on our showcase page, which you can just get to from the homepage of ionicframework.com. I think it's /showcase. Showcase.ionic.
And there's a link on the homepage.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll put links in the show notes as well. So, yeah, that's awesome. That's way impressive. Featured on all stores. It's kind of a big deal. Ionic is for real.
What I love about the one is I gave a talk a couple weeks ago and I explained the one, the Swerkit. And after the talk, someone came up to me. He's like, "I actually have that on my phone. I had no idea that was an Ionic." That's our goal. We don't want you to know it's an app.
Yeah. Achievement unlocked, dude. Cool, and it's only going to get better with Angular 2 and Ionic 2. So.
Oh yeah, a lot better.
That's cool. Awesome. So, let's really quickly take a stroll down the competing frameworks road. Obviously, many of us know or are familiar with these competing frameworks. So you have React Native, NativeScript. Do you guys know? I don't even know of any other competing frameworks, but if you know. But I'd just be interested to hear about how these others fit into the picture.
Yeah, so React Native and NativeScript are super cool. I think when React Native was announced, I was just kind of super impressed by how elegant it was. You had this really simple kind of abstraction over UI, and I could just see their thought process behind it when they just finally had a realization where they're like, well, you don't have to use the DOM. We could have native views underneath, and that's probably I think that's my favorite part about it. I think NativeScript is also really cool. We love both of them. I think fundamentally the approach in the long-term vision is just different. Those aren't web platforms, and even though they use JavaScript, that's kind of where the similarities end. We are really focused on empowering the web stack that most people know, like HTML5, JavaScript, CSS, your whole team can work on it. Designers can write CSS in a very natural way. Like we want that platform to win. So it's kind of like a different vision, and we think they're going to be really popular, and we want to support them and potentially have our services work with them if it makes sense. But we just see it a little bit of a departure from the big vision that we have. Like we're focused on the web. We think the web will win, the standards will win, but it's going to take time. Like we want to be a leader in making it happen. So
for the long haul.
Yep.
Yep. We're betting on the web.
And then also like Angular. I think React is great, but like Angular is kind of a dominating force right now. And Angular 2, I was a little bit worried would kind of like fall flat on its face, but after ngconf and after playing with it, like I'm just so convinced that it's just going to accelerate like the growth of Angular. So we're betting on Angular. We have fun with it. The community's awesome, and that's what we're going to focus on.
Yeah, and what I love about Angular 2 is it really focuses on the web standards. It's not making up new terms and making up these new things that you have to learn. It's really just augmenting or making the DOM and the actual web platform a lot better in building large-scale apps.
I think you were the one who tweeted something like it looks less like a framework.
Yeah, it's not really a framework. It's a library to enhance HTML,
which is awesome.
And that's where we really love the future of this all. It's like we're not kind of inventing a standard for 2015. We're embracing the standards that everyone already knows and loves and will continue to be here 20 years down the road. So.
And then also on that note, like and this is maybe a little bit too early to mention, but we're not just thinking about just the native environment. We have people constantly ask us like how can they break out a bit and do multi-format displays, all this stuff. So the web platform gives us a little more agility if we want to go down that route.
Which we won't say anything more about.
I wouldn't ask, but I guess you're there. Cool. I think that's a good response. I'm also very impressed with React Native. It's certainly a different approach to the problem, and React that's kind of their game. Different approach to all the problems. And they do some very impressive stuff. But I agree that I want the web to win, and I think that it will. And by kind of tying yourself to the web ship. I think that you'll win too. So awesome. So is there? I think we're about winding down. But is there anything else that you guys wanted to talk about before we get into some of these questions that people have asked?
Since we have a slight stage here, I do want to just say from all of us like how incredibly humbled and thankful we are to our community. We love the community. We love all of these Ionic groups that are forming all on their own, all over the world. And on top of that, the Angular community. It's a fabulous world to exist in. And
the very fact that we're doing this show,
yes.
Angular community.
I think there's just something special about it. Like I comparing it to other communities, it's so tight knit, but it's so big. I love the Angular community. Awesome.
And the Angular team. I mean, huge thanks to them. We've had numerous one-on-one conversations with them. They've helped us out. They've been helping us out with Ionic 2 already. So it's great to be actually talking to these guys and giving us suggestions and giving them feedback.
And they're so transparent, which I think is really refreshing. And you don't see that from a lot of other teams. But they're like, you ask them what their plans are, they'll tell you. Like they really just want to make Angular awesome, and they're not afraid to
upset a few people.
Yeah.
So.
I've always compared it to like the old homebrew clubs in California. Like when there was a bunch of people that were all together and they're all kind of excited about something. They didn't really know how it was going to play out, but they just knew that something awesome was starting or beginning, and they're always excited to be part of it.
Yeah, I think Angular 2 definitely feels like that. Very collaborative right now, which is great.
Yeah, I noticed actually they are so open that I was looking at their weekly meeting notes, and they mentioned that you guys are one of the groups that they want to support personally for upgrading Angular 2. So kudos to you guys. That's awesome.
They've been great so far. So it's awesome. It's like kind of an honor to get assistance from them from the source. So
we're gonna have a good helping hand in our building of Ionic 2 alongside Angular 2. So Probably shouldn't say too much now, but it's going to be just epic. So
Don't build it up.
it's going to be okay.
No pressure.
It'll be really better than that.
So when they announced Angular 2 at NG Europe, they mentioned that they wanted Angular 2 to be mobile friendly. So I see that being consistent with wanting to make sure that they get feedback from you guys who are kind of the Angular mobile experts, so that you can kind of help direct the where Angular 2 is going. So I think that's very valuable.
Yeah, and it's really cool. I've also been doing a lot of research in like web workers and messing around with a UI thread, and so it's not really just kind of one and the same doing another framework. It's kind of coming up with new ideas and testing limits, especially with the new devices and what the new APIs that are available now. That weren't there, 3 years ago
Or 6 months ago.
right?
I worked there yesterday.
Which is another thing that's great timing because you see how fast iOS updates itself. Everyone's got an iOS phone. They update their phone within days. So iPhone users, iPad users, they always have the latest and greatest, which is great for hybrid app development. And now, since Android 5.0, it's self-updating, so you have the most modern Chrome. So this is something that wasn't possible 2 years ago, a year ago. So
And we can bundle modern Chrome and old Android, so that works too.
Yeah, we have way too much cruft in Ionic for like iOS 6. We just don't need that anymore. It's going to be very liberating.
Oh, that's awesome. Cool, guys. Well, before we get into the questions, my wife had a good suggestion for me for this show. And it is everyone that I bring onto this show, I want to ask for a tip for a brand new programmer. It doesn't have to be Angular related necessarily. Just just give me your tips on software development in general. So I didn't warn you, so if you want to pass and tweet it later, that's okay. But go ahead and think about it real quick.
Okay, I know when I get asked this, it's immediately give yourself a project. Give yourself something practical to do. I want to build a mobile app to track where my cat went today. Just something stupid, but an actual app.
That sounds awesome.
Yes, focus.
I can use that.
There's a lot to learn. Pick one thing. Don't pick 3 things. Don't be overwhelmed. Just pick one thing, learn it, and do it practically with the actual project, like Adam said. That's how I learned. That's the best way to learn. Not how
Yeah. And I think don't be so focused on memorizing stuff. Just expose yourself to things, and then later on you'll be like, oh, that makes sense. Now I get it. That's just how it works.
Google
Yeah.
Albert Einstein. Never memorize what you can look up in a book.
There you go.
Quote it.
Or documentation now.
or Google. He
Or
also added
Wikipedia.
Google, but he didn't know that.
The world is your oyster with Google. Awesome. Anybody else have any beginner programming tips?
Mike?
I think whatever you do, make sure that you know your editor really well, because if it's a repetitive task or something, there's chances are that if you're using Sublime, WebStorm, or even Vim, that it'll probably be there to hold your hand and help you out with anything.
Awesome.
Use Vim.
Use Vim too.
Or you learn to program.
First Vim script, then JavaScript.
Oh, man. We're not going to get into an editor war.
Well, I'll win. Andrew and I will win.
Oh, yeah, here we go.
Oh, man. All right, let's get into some of these questions.
Don't worry about the editor. Worry about programming and then the editor.
Yeah, +1 to that. And I totally agree with you guys, especially Andrew, your point about not being overwhelmed. Just focus on one thing, learn one thing. There are so many options. And not only just even inside of the JavaScript community, and if we just take a segment of the build system stuff, there are so many different choices. You have Gulp and Grunt and Broccoli and Webpack and Browserify, and it's wild. And you can definitely get yourself into a analysis paralysis situation where you're just totally dead in the water, intimidated by all the things that you have to learn. So, good tips, guys. Thank you. So let's go ahead and look at. We have a couple of questions here, and then that'll be it. I'll give you guys another chance to say whatever you want to say, as long as it's Nice. So, which of course it will be. So this first one is from Olivier Combe. He said, once Ionic 2.0 is out using Angular 2, will you stop working on Ionic 1.x for Angular 1? We already talked about this, but is there anything else you want to add about that?
I think I'll add that like we see Ionic 2 as a natural progression of the framework. So at the end of the day, yes, like eventually Ionic 2 will be what we push and what we support, and that's just how software works. I think like if you look at any other framework like Android, iOS, you're using the newest SDK. Like the old ones still work, but you'll find that the community has kind of moved on. So once the community has kind of moved on and we have like a transition period, then we'll be putting all our energy in Ionic 2. But in the meantime, like we're definitely going to support it, and we'll keep fixing it, improving it. Like we're going to be releasing like new versions here with new features. So we've got a lot of power on it right now.
We just released RC1 this morning, right? RC
Yesterday morning.
Yesterday morning, yeah.
I think the Angular team put it best when they said that really we're going to be tracking where we put our efforts as far as by where people are excited about. And so that really puts the incentive on us to make Ionic 2 really exciting and something that people will want to migrate to, so that then our support will follow that attention.
Yeah, I think we'll use a data-driven approach to figure out what's more successful.
Awesome. That sounds reasonable to me. Sorry, did somebody want to say something?
No, it's fine.
Okay. Okay, great. So next question is from Jeff Welpley, and this one's specifically for Mike. So I don't know, maybe you've had a conversation about this. But he said, why can't I use less instead of SAS? Is this like an inside joke that nobody else is?
You rolled the jackpot.
Yeah, there was like a really old thread on the forum. A lot of support. People wanting, can I use Ionic .less instead of, SAS or anything? So that's an inside joke between me and him. He was like, well, why does it matter?
Oh man, Jeff is a big troll.
It is a valid question, and people ask us it, and like.
Yeah, that is a good question. Go ahead. Sorry.
Our response is that
We like the color pink.
Well, I mean, like it doesn't. SAS is great. A lot of people use it. It works well. It's very similar to CSS. Like, just pick what works best. Like the one that's most supported. That's what we're gonna do. Like we want to pick one thing, have documentation on it, and have it be the most supported. And that's SAS. Like it's great. Like we love the projects. Yeah, like.
You gotta pick one, so we picked one that we saw more popular.
Yeah, they're very equivalent, so we picked SAS. We can't compile SAS to less, so we can't distribute less without rewriting our SAS, so we stay with SAS.
Pretty simple.
Yep. But it is.
It's just write your own framework that compiles down to both. And
Discussed it.
SAS-less.
SAS-less.
Or just ice.
That's perfect.
Style sheet, ice.
Nice.
We do have like a running bet though, because like every time there's a meetup or a workshop or something where we open it up to like Q&A, like every single time that somebody asks that question.
And if we were the exact opposite, it'd be the same. If we said
SAS is
less
actually
or less.
slightly more popular than less, so it's a good choice.
So I feel feature set, it's a wash. They're both great, right? So we picked one, so we did.
Except SAS has maps and less doesn't.
Okay, so
And tweet me if I'm wrong. As far as I know, I'm right.
we beat that one.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, all of these answers are fine, but really the real reason is that we really like the color pink.
Yes.
Perfect. Yeah, that makes sense. Awesome. So this is also a question you will likely not be able to answer at this point, but when will Ionic 2.0 be? When will Ionic 2.0 using Angular 2 be released? He's got a winky face. This is from Jeff Welpley as well.
ASAP.
Tomorrow.
Once it's ready.
We're actually pushing the release right now.
Oh, cool. Let me go get on that right now.
So, I mean, the source of it all is Angular 2, and Angular 2, the team has gone at length describing that there is no release date.
Yep.
It's going to be ready when it's ready. So we're kind of going along the same path because we're dependent on Angular 2, but we are working in parallel with them at the same time. So we'd like to release ours near the same time as when Angular 2 is.
Yep.
Awesome. And are you gonna have like an open source repo as you're developing that as well? Is it going to be like a different repository than the current Ionic repository?
I think once we get to a point where we actually have something working and made some decisions that are like going to stick around, which we're doing right now, then we might. Like we definitely want to work in the open eventually. Like we don't want to just say, hey, it's ready, or like, hey, we're launching. Like we don't want to launch it. Like I think that's never worked in the past. It's just a bad strategy. So I think once we feel comfortable, we'll start rolling access out.
And that's exactly what we did with Ionic 1 too. We built it for a little bit, then released it, and then got lots of feedback. So
yeah, we accidentally got popular with Ionic 1. Somebody did us on Hacker News, and we weren't ready, but it turned out great.
Someone found our website and posted it to HN. That was
November 19th, I recall.
Was it?
Yeah, we showed up to work.
A scary Friday morning.
To work, and all of a sudden we're on the #1 on Hack News, and we didn't have it prepared. I mean, we had these claims about how great it was and everything, but it wasn't there yet. So
hey, it worked out.
Yeah, it worked out.
Yeah. Yeah, that's always the biggest fear is like you've got a work in progress library and then it gets released out in the wild and then when it's actually released you're like, yeah, this is the thing you heard about earlier, but it's better. But
it's not going to crash now.
Yeah. Cool. I think that's all the questions that we have time for. So I'll just go ahead and wrap up. Before I go into like closing announcements and stuff, is there anything else that you guys want to say to the developer community?
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's it.
Thanks.
That's awesome.
Awesome. Okay, so I'll just give a couple of closing announcements. Just remember, we have our next show is in a week with Jason Debris, who's built JS Data and Angular Cache, Angular Data. He's got a couple libraries, and we're going to be talking about developing open source libraries for Angular. And then make sure to follow us on Twitter and Google+ to get updates on the latest stuff. And feel free to go to the website ng-air.github.io so that you can get all of the like updates and everything there as well, and ask questions for our guests. So with that, I think we'll say goodbye. So thanks, guys, for coming. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Au revoir.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Later.